You're listening to the Around the Lens podcast, the home of high-quality, roundtable, visual journalism discussion about the news, topics, and gear related to our career field. Now, here's the host of our show, David J. Murphy.
Hello and welcome to episode 242 of Around the Lens. I am your host, David J. Murphy. Joining me this week, I have two regular co-hosts and one guest. My first regular co-host is Travis Keys, chairman of the APA and a photographer based out of New York. Hello, Travis. How are you?
I'm doing well, and it's a good thing you introduced me first so Evelyn can swallow her breakfast right before going live.
That's right. If we need to vamp longer, Evelyn, you just let us know. Just blink once for yes, twice for no.
We can talk about all kinds of stuff. Get a sip of coffee, relax. It's all good.
I'm drinking tea.
The life of the working journalist,
I know, it never ends. It never ends. Eating on the go.
I tell you. Our other regular co-host joining us this week, we've missed you. It's been too long. Miss Evelyn Hochstein, a Washington, D.C.-based freelance photojournalist. Hello, Evelyn. How are you?
I am good. Glad to be with you guys. And Maysun, our guest. It's nice to see you all again.
Indeed. Nice to see you as well.
D.C. is cool. Quiet.
I know you got a lot of stuff going on in your life. Can we talk about it on the air? Should we talk about it on the air? No? Okay. We'll keep that under wraps. We'll keep that a mystery to the listeners. Indeed. All right. Well, I'm very proud to introduce our guest this week, Maysun. She is coming out to us all the way from Madrid, Spain, and she is a Spanish/Palestinian independent visual journalist, mainly focused in documentary and wire storytelling. Hello, Maysun. How are you doing today?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Very well. And you?
I'm doing great. Glad to have you on the program. How's everything going on in Spain?
Oh, well, it's well. I mean, we still have the pandemic, so it's weird times, but we still have the summer. So, I mean, yeah, we're more or less okay. Yeah.
That's good. How are the numbers in your country? Are they going down?
Well, oh no, I wish they are increasing by the hour. But the problem is that people, they are not taking seriously anymore the situation because we already they don't want to be under lockdown, so they're just doing their life, and it's going to be a problem for a long time. But so we have to be extra careful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And has COVID affected how you do your job and your ability to do your job?
The truth is that, well, at the beginning, I had an assignment from a German magazine, Gh5, but because the situation was a little bit confusing all around the world, they started assigning us because it started in Italy and Spain, after China, of course. But as soon as they got their own wave, they kind of like a little bit of, I don't know, I don't want to say abandon us, but certain assignments were like disappeared from, like in a moment. So it was weird, but after some time I decided that I was not covering the story because I'm asthmatic.
Right.
So I decided it was, there were other people, our colleagues, they were doing a great job and they didn't risk so much. So I stayed at home and I did other things, other stuff. Like I collaborated with a friend of mine that he's a musician, and he was doing a video clip about how women in different countries of the world, how they deal with the pandemic and the situation and the isolation. So I think we were like, I don't really remember, but I think it was like 30 female directors from all over the world filming our own situation.
Wow.
And it turned out really nice, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool.
So it was not all useless, no, staying at home and not knowing what to do.
Right.
And feeling isolated from your family, or especially if you're in different cities.
Right.
So at least we had the chance to do something good in terms of work.
That's good. No, I mean, it's essentially keep yourself busy, in this trying time, and I'm glad you were able to do that. We've talked about many times, the kind of trying to find ways to keep busy, especially if you can't go anywhere or do anything, or if you can, doing it safely. So I'm sure you're out there, you're wearing the mask, or you're keeping your distance, and all the basic core tenets, right?
Yeah. Now I'm 100% back to work and doing my job. But I've been doing it since the 1st of July. Yeah. So, I mean, you have to earn money. So you need to put your mask and keep your distance as much as you can, and do your job.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Well, stay safe out there. Stay
cross
healthy.
Fingers.
Indeed, cross fingers. Yeah. And then wash your hands after you cross your fingers, because you never know where your fingers are.
Of course. Before and after.
Indeed. All right. Well, let's get into our first story this week. It's all about the California's controversial AB5 bill, and how now freelance photographers are exempt from its its law. So again, this was a law that was signed by current California Governor Gavin Newsome, and basically this new law exempts photographers and other type of independent contractors from what May said was a controversial law. And it was signed in September 2019. It took effect in January of this year. And it's primarily designed to prevent the misclassifying of employees as independent contractors. And it's stemmed primarily from the whole Uber, Lyft, sort of this casual gig economy that was kind of driving, growing up. And, again, these people work for Lyft or Uber or these other companies, 40 hours a week, maybe more, and they get no benefits from that, job. They're just basically working whatever money they can make. And so anyways, under the law, freelance photographers were initially limited to just 35 submissions or assignments per client per year, which comes out to about 3 per month. So an employer could make the decision of either bringing on a photographer full-time or just hiring someone else. And so many photographers were worried that this would cost them work, because obviously, a business isn't just going to hire an employee if they can help it. They're going to just find another photographer, right? So anyways, many felt the original law was too harsh, and this law sought to fix that. So, let me throw it out to you all, and first, talk about you, Maysun, in terms of what your thoughts are. And I know you're a freelancer, right?
Right.
So what do you think about, sort of this law and how it's enacted and how it's fixed? Do you think the fix is good enough and will actually make a difference for, the freelance photographer in California?
Well, I think it could be a good thing if it was done in a good way. Right. But it can be really dangerous and damaging for the freelancers, because nobody is actually or this law is not giving the freelancers a minimum of work. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to explain that. I'm sorry, my English maybe is not that good. But if this law made sure that these freelancers are going to have at least more than 3 gigs per month from any client, it would be okay. But this way, I think it's good for the companies, but for the freelancers, it can be tricky, because it can mean that the companies are actually hiring just different freelancers, and so in the end, everybody like the freelancers lose. No?
I think it make it much harder for the average freelancer probably to make an income, especially if they have a good relationship with the company that's paying them and hiring them, for sure. And I think this law would have been good if it helped create a path towards full-time work for those freelancers if they so desired it. Like if this generated more staff jobs, I think there could have been a lot more, benefit from it. I think everyone on the show here is a freelancer, but I'll throw it over to you, Evelyn. I haven't heard you talk about things in a while. Were you following this law at all? Do you have any thoughts about sort of freelance laws in general? Do you think there should be more freelance laws?
Well, I think first of all, these are like broad, very wildly different types of corporations. So like take Uber versus like the Los Angeles Times or any newspaper that's like been undergoing like financial problems. So I love the idea of wanting to support workers and helping workers and giving them the benefits and the protections that we need, because we all take Uber and Lyft and we know how hard people are working full time, and they're probably just making, just above minimum wage, and they're paying for these cars and car insurance. So, and these are multi-million-dollar corporations. Unfortunately, so I absolutely 100% believe that we have a gig economy and there are not enough protections for workers. So in theory, I think the law was really it was the right idea. Let's protect workers. But in our industry, where newspapers are constantly going out of business or going bankrupt or shrinking, I mean, the LA Times was just bought by a multimillionaire, like similar to the Washington Post. They rely on a tremendous amount of freelancers. I think the Washington Post has they've just hired 2 people, but like 19 staff photographers, if I'm correct, and like a slew of freelancers. And I certainly need them to work. I need to work more than 3 days a week for them, like my main client. Other clients maybe not, and you supplement. But I think the idea, that would just, sure. Would all freelancers love to be hired by newspapers? Yes. Should we maybe be hired by newspapers or get more protections or have benefits or have some union behind us to help us at least get like better day rates or better protections if we're injured? All of those things. But do I see it being feasible in like today's age and the current state of newspapers and the budgets that they work under? Probably not. So in that regard, this law would definitely hurt freelancers, and it just doesn't seem to apply. I don't think you can make such a broad sweeping bill when industries are so totally different. But to that point, I think we as freelance photographers also, I wish we could unionize, and I wish we had better protections, because there are certain areas where we need those things, and it may not come from our employer. But forcing an employer to make that choice, like, we're going to lose in that industry. Yeah, for sure.
No, I'm sure that the changes will come from the Photo Bill of Rights, of course. That ironclad document.
Right. So so those are my thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. You bring up an interesting point. About wanting to be a staffer. If the staff opportunity was there to, you would take it. Obviously, Travis, you've been a freelancer for a while. Would you, like, if there was a full-time position that allowed you to do what you do currently, would you take something like that, or do you prefer the freelance life?
Well, I got to tell you, just the current economic climate and what we're seeing from unemployment as being a freelancer because of COVID and stuff like that, it really makes you kind of think and wonder about a comment like that. And I think it shows how delicate the balance is, especially right now when if there wasn't the pandemic assistance and something like that. And we saw how difficult it was for all of us as freelancers to actually apply, get through, and try and get on unemployment, which doesn't usually protect us as freelancers, and took a special, we walk a dangerous line as freelancers, and right now I think Evelyn, it brings up a very good point. The Uber driver is very different than the photographer, and right now you want some stability and balance, and we would love to see some sort of unionization or I think some sort of protection, or just some standardization. I don't. It's hard to say that too, but because you don't want to do too much, but at the same time, you want everybody to be treated justly, and you got to think about healthcare. You got to think about standard rates, and not people pitching. Like there's some people that work for nothing, or some people that work for a lot, and there has to be something that protects us. And it's a really difficult situation, and there's not one bill that's going to kind of correct that, and certain bills can really hurt that. So this is a tough one.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a freelancer's health insurance plan or something, or some sort of freelancers thing like that?
There's a group calls themselves the freelancers, and you can go in but I mean, it's just like anything else. You're paying into another thing. It's not, it's established by, an organization. It's not the government. It's not any, a specific, union. It's just, it's a group that calls them the freelancers.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can, any freelance. Oh, sorry, Dave. I was just going to say, we can get access to healthcare. I mean, I pay for my own healthcare. It's just extremely expensive, and you never get the benefit of your employer contributing at all. So it's, it's out of pocket. And, I guess we do have the Affordable Care Act, so it's available. Anybody can get healthcare, but you're either getting some sort of catastrophic plan or some really expensive, like what I pay, like monthly premium. So I haven't really found a good balance there.
Yeah, I mean, that's again what I was going to, is that there is, an organization that uses the power of the group to help get lower rates for healthcare among freelancers. Is there something like that exists, or you have to buy your own healthcare outright?
I mean, certainly the Freelancers Union is an organization that tries to facilitate that, and that they have all kinds of educational things and to help you in many different facets of your career, as well as trying to find you the right kind of healthcare. But unfortunately, there is no kind of cheap version or good version to it.
Yeah. Hey, Maysun. Maysun, how's that freelance life doing in Spain? And would you be a staffer if you had the opportunity, or full-time job?
Well, first of all, it's a disaster, absolute disaster. I've been a freelancer for 17 years.
Wow.
And man, if I could have a contract ever again, like if I was offered a contract, I would have taken it in a blink. Right. I mean, if someone told me, hey, do you want to be a staffer? I mean, for me, in all these years, I think I never knew anyone here in this country that didn't have already a contract, for an old contract, because the people that are in the people working in media that are staffers are the ones that are about to retire. They don't want to kick them out, because they have been so long in the company that it would be actually more expensive to kick them out. So they let them stay there, but they don't offer any new contract to younger people.
Right.
So it's just something. It's kind of like to be a dinosaur in this industry. And I think no media right now is offering any contract, and that's terrible, because first of all, it's terrible. It's terrible for us because we don't have stability, economical stability. I cannot talk about health insurance, because in Spain we have a public healthcare system,
right? Mm-hmm.
Which I'm so grateful that we have, because it would be horrible if we didn't have it.
Right.
So I cannot imagine what is your situation, but also we have a different problem, I think, because, for example, here we earn so few euros that you cannot even think about living alone. You have to share your flat with flatmates, like if you were 20 years old and you were studying, no? So it's I think it's different kind of problems, or maybe they are the same. I don't know, but also I think besides the money part, I think it's about quality also in your work. If you're not a staffer and go out and spend 1 month to do a story, and you need to work on the contacts, you need to produce your work, you need to pay for everything, and the media don't they don't pay for the expenses. They don't want to pay for the expenses. Then you cannot do a good job in the end. Like, you do less that you should be doing.
Right.
And in the end, what we're publishing is not the best of us, no. And I think in the end, in the last 15, 20 years, magazines have lost a lot of quality. Of course, so many magazines have actually disappeared, but also the ones that are still standing, they lack of quality.
Wow.
You know, I sometimes check some magazines that I have from the 90s, and I realized the stories were like 6-8 pages for one story.
Wow.
Like they used to dig deep, no, and now it's like 1 or 2 pages, and it's like 3-4 pictures. Before it was like I don't know, 15 pictures, and with good space. So I think if you destroy the economic model, if you destroy the industry, then you're destroying also what you're offering to the viewers. You're destroying the quality that you're offering, and that's important. But it's also very it's serious, because you have a responsibility of doing your best job, I think.
Yeah, totally. And Evelyn, it seemed like you were kind of nodding with what she was saying with regard to sort of the industry and the quality, whatnot. Have you seen that sort of decline in the newspaper industry?
Well, I feel like there used to be this word called reportage that existed, and like now, I mean, and certainly in European magazines, like I used to shoot sometimes for El-País, like the German magazines, and they were so known for their photography, and it's so true. It's so depressing. I think newspapers definitely do invest, and I see in the Washington Post, but for staffers or also online, they do have like their visual blogs, like Insight blog, but it's different. It's harder to get the space. The print newspaper is so thin now, so you may see it in their Sunday magazine, or you may see it online, but to actually see it like in a physical print newspaper, which is dying out. It doesn't mean that news is dying, but I think that medium is dying, and we just have to look for it in different ways. But, you know, yeah, the 90s, I mean, okay, I only started working in like 99 or 98, but the early 2000s were the time when there were, you know, photo agencies, and people would fly in from all over the world and cover, you know, international news. I mean, I was an international photojournalist. I was based in Nairobi. There was a bureau from every single newspaper. You know, that's when I did my work for the Spanish media, FA and El País and those. But anyway, nobody has a bureau. There are no bureaus left. You know, I left Nairobi, and everyone had a bureau, and as far as I know, they're gone. So, yeah, to your long-winded answer to your question, but that day has changed a lot, and we've seen most of these outlets either go bankrupt or shrink, or go out of business, or merge. And the world has changed. Our appetites are different, and younger, you know, we use media differently. So you can't just say it's all negative, but we have social media, we have mobile phones, we have high-speed internet. So our consumption of the news is totally different, and it's important to like look at that also, instead of just look at the good old days of like great magazine spreads, which we all miss. But it's also just a different way of consuming the news. But I would say, as a general, overall reaching concept, our in-depth, we do not go as in-depth as we used to, and that's for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Not even online. I mean, you know, maybe not in the sort of print space, obviously, but you know, I mean, you know, you can go online and see like a photo gallery with 50 images, you know, on it, or sometimes they do long form. I don't know.
I think we do. I think we're losing some people. I don't know about this connection, Dave, but I'll keep talking. I think we do go on, but you have to remember with the speed, and everyone needs to put something out with breaking news. So you see more like things coming out quickly and less in-depth reporting. And maybe we do, but often things come out too quickly, and mistakes and retractions. And even when we do something in depth, it's just not quite as we're not able, I think, to give it the time and commitment that we used to, just because of the demands of our fast-paced news cycle. So I think even the deepest, magazine reporters or investigative reporters, or even like the ProPublicas of the world, I think that we were moving at a different speed, and it's not quite the same.
Yeah. No, I think in the few instances where I've seen really in-depth reporting has been from, the New York Times or the LA Times, or these really large publications that have the budget behind them. But when they do it well, it's really amazing what they can do with, the interactive medium that is the internet. For instance, a few years ago, there was some great reporting done on the avalanche that was at the ski mountain resort or whatever, and a lot of people had died and were stuck and whatnot. So it was very well done. A lot of interactive elements, 3D elements and stuff like that. So really interesting to see that.
The interactive. I mean, I love now when I do I get to see more of my photographs than I may have even in a magazine spread. But I think we have to be careful though, and the scope. It's fewer and far between, I would say. We just live in a faster paced place. Yeah.
Indeed.
Is everyone here?
Yeah, we got
you. We got you.
See, Travis. Maysun, you just came back. You were gone for a minute there. I hear you.
But I heard you. I hear you. So.
Yeah, we heard everything. All right. Well, let's talk about that, because I mean, again, it is a changing world, right? And you got to change with it, or get kind of left in the dust, right? And our guest, Maysun, you've been doing, of course, all kinds of great things with conflict photojournalism, documentary photography, general storytelling. You said for 17 years, but you also have taken up cinematography. Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about your experience, getting into cinematography, why you chose to kind of explore that sort of artistic craft, and where it's taken you so far.
Well, I just started, I must say that. So it's not a long path. But in 2011, this story is actually a little bit weird, and it's funny because I was in a bus from Barcelona to Zaragoza, which is my hometown, and the guy that was sitting next to me was a theater director, and we started talking about life, about things, and we got along really well, and we exchanged business cards, but he didn't talk about anything in details, no. So the next day he sent me an email, and he said, "Hey, I'm preparing a film. I'm doing this, and it's a very personal thing. It's about mistreatment and gender violence, and but it's a real theatrical setup. So I'm just recruiting people, and I love your job. I love what you do with the light, and I want you to do the cinematography." And I was like, man, I never did that before. So he said, "Okay, do you understand light? And do you can do in my film what do you do in my pictures?" And I don't know. I don't know why I said yes at first. Something, I don't know why I did it, but I did. I said yes, thinking that it was easier than I thought maybe, and that it was a small project. I thought it was a small project. So when I got there, he told me, "No, it's a really familiar thing. It's just a bunch of friends and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great." And when I got there, it was the best people in the film industry in Spain were working in that film. And actors and actresses. I don't know if you know Maribel Verdú, for example. She works a lot in France, and ¿cómo se llama? Eduardo Noriega. I don't know if you guys know him. It's the Spanish version of Vanilla Sky.
Oh,
he was one of the. Yeah, so it's the original version that was Spanish. He was one of the the actors.
Nice.
So it was full of amazing people, and I was like, oh shit, why did I say yes? I have no clue what to do. So I did what I did, and it was okay. And as we were filming, I realized that it was a huge job, and that I could do it well, but it could be always better. And I think I'm a perfectionist. I've always been a perfectionist, and so I decided to study that, and I did a master's in cinematography. And of course, now I think what I did, it was terrible. But that's a good thing, because you get better with time. So, but I'm interested. What I know is that even though sometimes I work in TV or in film, I realize that what I like and what I've always feel like is reality, and I'm a storyteller of real stories. So I want to use that cinematography but in my documentary work, So for me, being a cinematographer is a way to amplify my visual skills, to tell the stories I do in pictures or in video, but in a better way. I think it's a very technical job, and I think the good thing is that if you have a good narrative, if you have a visual narrative, you can do whatever you want. Like because many people, I think it's an advantage to be a photographer before a cinematographer, because if you already have that narrative in your head, then I think it's easier to make that in motion, So for me, well, I'm still creating, I'm still adjusting, I'm still learning, but I think it's a long way, and I'm not changing my job. I'm not changing to a different profession. I'm just widening my skills and trying to jump into documentaries, classic ones.
Okay, so you want to do documentary filmmaking?
Yeah.
As opposed to like more fictional or like scripted filmmaking.
I mean, if it's scripted or if it's fiction, it should be something that still has a social background, a social essence. I'm interested in stories about life and about humans and injustice, and that's what I like. In the end, a storyteller can be a storyteller with words, with images, with motion, with whatever you want. It's just different languages. What I think is important nowadays, that we have so many different tools in our hands, is that you can mix all that. You can do motion, you can do multimedia, you can do this kind of websites that when you're scrolling down, it activates audio, it activates still photography, it activates video. So I think we are lucky to be in this decade, and with so many tools in our hands. I think there's so many toys you can use. So I think the important thing is that you know what you want to tell. Mm-hmm. You know how to do it, and you just go for it. Oh, sorry.
No worries. Yeah, that was great. I mean, I'm actually taking a class in documentary filmmaking right now, and I've been learning a lot from it. And really, for looking at my own background in the art form, I've never been formally trained in how to do video or filmmaking or documentary style anything. Everything I've learned has sort of been reverse engineered from what I've been able to see, from my own documentaries or just doing them myself and sort of learning by mistakes. And so the course I'm going through has been really helpful in just sort of getting someone's opinion and someone's experience who's done it, many times and has had that experience of actually gotten their film made and published on Netflix and, other sort of platforms. And it's really helped kind of condense everything. And, again, it's like what people go to school for, right? It's to learn from other people's mistakes. It's to get sort of that training that they wouldn't, would normally take them 10 years, right, in the real world, and they can get and learn it from somebody who's already been through it and had those mistakes. So, I think that's an admirable effort there, and I'm wishing you all the best of luck on your documentary filmmaking career.
Thank you.
I was thinking about my own filmmaking sort of goals and whatnot with regard to my recent change to the Canon R5 and my strip down of really all my other lenses. So like I used to kind of want to have the entire set of every single possible lens that a camera manufacturer made, besides just the Holy Trinity. I'd want like the 50 millimeter 1.4 and the macro and the super zoom. But having stripped down to just one lens and one camera body has really made me sort of think about the art form a bit more creatively and trying to get more capability from what I have. And it's also forced me to use and kind of encouraged me to use my other platforms like my drone. I've taken my drone out a lot more in the last few weeks and used that to help me get aerial shots more so than I have probably in the llast few years since owning the drone. And it's just kind of like it's another tool in sort of the toolbox, which includes the camera and the drone and the action camera. So I'm getting more use out of all those cameras now, or at least I feel. But filmmaking, cinematography, that's definitely something that I see as sort of my future. And it's interesting that you don't see it as necessarily something that you're going to switch to, but just something you might be doing in addition to all your other work forms, which include you're a painter as well as a photographer and everything like that. And that's kind of my other question is, how do you balance all those different artistic mediums? How do you decide how much time to devote to one or the other?
I don't really choose, or I don't really rationalize the process. I think I just flow, and well, most of my time I think I invest in my documentary photography and breaking news when I work. But I used to do it before. I used to do it more before. I used to jump in every place that was hot, and I think right now I'm more interested in doing like long-term projects, like more investigative, more like slower. I think there's a moment that you have maybe that you have enough, or that you need a change in terms of how fast you move in this job. And I used to move really fast. I used to go from war to war or hot spot to hot spot. And I was actually based in Nairobi for a while too, and I loved it. I so loved Kenya. I'm always looking for excuses to go back there, actually. But I don't know. There's not much job. It's full of stories, but if you don't have fixed clients that can rely on you on the field, it's difficult to live there, I think. Because I don't know if you, Evelyn, got a work permit in the end. How long did you stay there?
I was 7 years. And
7 years.
I didn't have a work. Yeah, it worked pretty well for me. But I was shooting for the New York Times, so I had a really good base, and other American newspapers, and some NGOs. It worked. It worked for me. But I was there a long time, and I had some good connections when I would say I had a connection when I went there, but then it sort of fell through. But then I started shooting for the New York Times, so that helped a lot. I don't know what years you were there. I was there 2002 to 2008. Yeah.
Well, I think you catch the good times.
Yeah. It was
just before the crisis.
Right. So during the election violence, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I covered that, and then I left that following year. But yeah, so it worked out okay for me. But there is a lot of competition. It was hard, but back then there were a lot of opportunities there. There were a lot more foreign. Every newspaper from everywhere had a bureau. Every television channel had a bureau. Every magazine had a bureau. It's not like that anymore. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, again, I want to throw it to Travis and Evelyn with regard to sort of cinematography as a career field. Would either of you consider switching or moving more towards that?
I started in film and TV.
That's right, you did.
Yeah, I worked in film. I worked in film industry for a while. I went to NYU Film School. I worked in Hollywood and productions in New York and Hollywood, and worked on film sets and for a long time. I think if you're gonna be a freelancer and work in multimedia, you have to work in multimedia. You have to. It's especially nowadays. People always ask, "Oh, do you shoot film as well as, or do you shoot video as well as photos?" And I think if you want to kind of be relevant and stay working, you need to know both.
Would you ever go back?
Yeah.
I've never left it. I mean, I certainly, I've been a set photographer on movies now, so I've kind of bridged that world together, shooting, as a set photographer on films. I've certainly shot my fair share of video stuff in terms of, advertising or promo pieces or documenting stuff. I think it's just another tool in my box. So where I love photography and I call myself a photographer, I also have the video aspect of it. I gravitate more to photography just because I think video is something that is a very different beast entirely. You're constantly trying to shoot in different angles and coverage so you can edit it, and when you edit, it's a nightmare of endless possibilities of a jigsaw puzzle that you include sound, which is a whole other beast, and it's really kind of a daunting process, and you have to love it to do it. Whereas photography, for me, I have that image pretty much set in my head when I take that picture, and I know how I'm going to edit it. Even when I don't know how, it's a fun process for me to edit a photo. Yeah,
it's
true.
That is one of the benefits of photography. You just pick up the camera, you do your thing, you make your selects, add a caption, upload, you're done. Move on to something else.
But even the process of editing a photo for me is enjoyable. I mean, it makes logic. It's one frame, whereas not a series of frames or color correct. I mean, it's for film, adding audio and color correcting and doing editing and making those pieces fit together, and you can pace it so differently. I mean, you can take an editor that works with comedic timing and an editor that works drama, and they can take the same two pieces and make them look so different. I mean, there's so much power in editing, not that there isn't in photography, but with film editing, that whole pace and beats and all of that it's an incredibly labor-intensive process that's really, films that are okay, you give it to a good editor, and wow, man, they can do some amazing stuff with it. There's a lot to be said in that.
Yeah, 100%. Evelyn, you said you've dabbled a little bit in video, but would you ever move and switch over to it completely, or is it photo for life?
That's a tough question. I mean, I do love the documentary aspect, and that's what I would like to do, little documentary pieces. I could see switching over. Yeah, I could see it. I don't have the skill set right now. I find it really difficult to think about all those elements and to edit. I think I naturally have an eye for like the shooting part of it, but the technical skills I'm a little bit weak in, and I'd have to feel more comfortable. But I could see myself switching over. I don't know if I really will, just for practical purposes, but yeah. I feel it. I love the sound. I love the movement. I love the extra sensory information you get. I think it's easier in some ways to capture things and in a still photo, but I think it's technically a lot more challenging, and there's a lot of art in editing and storytelling. So I'm not taking away. I don't think it's easier to be a videographer. I just think sometimes when I'm shooting stills, I'm like, this is a time when a still photo doesn't capture everything in the way that movement or sound would explain a story. So I like that element a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's two totally different skill sets and mindsets for sure. And, it's interesting what you said, Travis, about color. The Canon R5 was actually my first experience doing like color grading on video. Like before, I'd always, I looked at it, but I never really got time to look at those wheels and color correction stuff. And DaVinci, it's so complicated and deep in what you can do there. But I shot in C-Log for the first time with the Canon, so I'd never shot in a log format before, and just being able to like really manipulate the scene and just change it so dramatically was really neat. I don't know if I'll do it again. It was just more of an experiment, but it was pretty cool to be able to mess with the color so much. I like that.
Yeah, I think the more you get into it and serious about shooting your own films, you'll definitely do it, because it gives you such a dynamic range and the ability to really kind of create. It's just another presence, another character almost. That color is a character in a film. It's like you can make it very dark and moody, or you can bring it bright, or add cool colors to make it cold, or warm colors to make it warm. It's really, not that you don't do that in photography, but it feels very different in video.
Yeah, well, I think with the kind of photography me and Evelyn do, or any documentary, Maysun as well, we're trying to get the image to look what it looked like when we shot it, versus necessarily trying to create a mood with the image. So it depend on if you're doing more documentary versus commercial, but definitely same.
And I'm the
same
complete
opposite
opposite in photography. I go fantastical and add stuff and crop out. Not being a journalist allows me a certain freedom to do whatever I want in my head to a photographer, to a photo, which is wonderful.
It's a great freedom to have. It's a creativity for sure. But yeah, loving the R5, by the way. Great camera. I shot RAW with it for the first time, and I found that easier to edit than the non-RAW stuff, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk a little about camera gear. And I know Travis, we're talking about just the story that was published and the rumors and what was been out there. So the Sony A7C has been leaked and then confirmed by other sources, so we know it's coming out. In fact, Sony has an event tomorrow, I believe, at 9 a.m. your time Eastern, or 10 p.m. 10 a.m. my time, 9 p.m. your time.
They're going to be talking about something, and it might be this.
It could be. Who knows? Maybe they're talking about the PS5. I don't know. Oh, wait, that's later on. That's on the 16th. Looking forward to getting the price and release date for that. Right, ladies? Huh? You're into the PS5, right? Getting that PS5 when that comes out? Oh yeah.
Maybe.
I'm sure you got that new house just for the PS5, right, Evelyn?
Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, anyways, so, of course, it's been reported on Petapixel and other places, that Sony has the A7C, and it's supposed to be their sort of lower entry level mirrorless full frame camera. It's being guessed at around $2,100 for the price. It has a corner EVF, which is kind of its most standout feature, at least, stylistically, that's, styled differently than the other A7 cameras. But it'll support a 24 megapixel sensor, similar to the, Canon RP and the recently announced Panasonic S5. It can shoot 10 frames per second. It's got a flip-out LCD, 28 to 60 millimeter lens. Obviously, Sony aficionado here. Just on the surface level, Travis, what are your thoughts about this potential camera coming out soon?
So this is an odd little bird. It's where it fits in is kind of strange, and the price point is, I find, very strange. Where you say lower end, it's not really lower end. It is a full frame, and it's the same specs as the A7 III. The same.
Oh.
Did we lose Travis? Oh, I think the Sony honchos, they targeted him. You can't break that embargo and talk about Sony cameras before they're out. Well, hopefully Travis will come back to us. Evelyn, I know you're sort of
the same sense. Am I here?
We lost you for a minute, Trav. You're back now. Back. Okay.
That was very odd.
You said it was an odd duck camera.
It's really kind of it's it's a smaller. I think the C must stand for compact. Everything, each letter stands for something.
Right.
The R's are being resolution, the S being sensitivity. This is very much an A7 III, but in a 6600 crop frame body, but it's a full frame camera. They've now added the fully articulating screen. It's really kind of geared to, I think, for travel. They're actually coming out with a V line of lenses that are compact and travel lenses that will go along with it, if this is actually happening. So this is, it's what kind of baffles me is this is a $2,000 camera, which is the same price as the A7 III. So I'm just like not sure where this really fits in and it's an odd thing, and I'm interested in how they're going to pitch it and how it's going to be rolled out, because I don't think it'll have the EVF that the A7 III has. I think it's going to be similar but not the same, and it's off to the side, and it's not, it's an odd little camera. So we'll see what happens with it. I think it's really geared towards to bloggers and travel people and people that are doing some video and stuff like that. And I think most of the cameras from this point forward will have this same articulating screen and the touch screens and all of that kind of stuff. What is nice about it is the older bodies. This has the new battery, so it will have more power to it. So it'll have so it's a bigger battery than some of the 6600, the earlier cameras that were compact. But it's an odd one. We'll see.
Do you think it cannibalizes like the A7S and other sort of cameras within the Sony series? I thought the Panasonic S5 kind of cannibalized the S1 sort of market. And
it's
market.
Right in there. It's like why? Which one do I go for? It's like, if it's the same specs as an A7, but they're doing a black version and that sort of black and silver version, so that's a very Fuji type of thing to do. And it's like, it's like what are they? It's like they're doing some multiple things here, and it's weird. And I guess it's nice to have a smaller camera and a smaller option that's full frame, and kind of something that I think they're really kind of trying to make a travel camera and something that's used for video and stuff like that. So that's interesting. But I have their small little version, which is another little blog camera, and this is a very small one, but. We'll see, and they're upping their game on the stabilization. The A7 III S is their stabilization. That is really kind of a game changer. It's really, really quite exceptional. So hopefully that rolls out into the future cameras.
Yeah, we definitely see all the manufacturers kind of getting their vlog camera, sort of on with different sort of with Panasonic, they're keeping it in the Micro Four Thirds realm. But it is interesting to see that kind of push more towards full frame. I think the Panasonic is trying to bridge that gap, getting the full frame vloggers on board and whatnot. Maysun, what are you using out there for your camera of choice, and what are your thoughts on, this Sony camera and also just mirrorless cameras in general?
Well, my camera is Canon. Is actually a 5D3. I'm not a fan of gear. Yeah, more or less like that. I'm functional. I'm not always looking for cameras or new cameras in the market.
Yeah.
I like to use a camera that I can rely on. Sure. That it gives me where I want, and then I use it for as long as I can, basically. Nice. But lately I've been trying, because Sony actually gives me sometimes some gear to try, and I've been working as a set photographer in a TV series in Spain with the Sony A9.
Yeah.
And I must say I completely fell in love with it. I didn't know it was gonna be like this. I thought it was, because I tried Fuji before. The ¿cómo se dice in English? The X Pro 2.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Fuji guys, I didn't like it. It was too slow for me, and the batteries were a disaster. They didn't last enough for me, and when I work normally, sometimes I work in environments that are really fast. So I need the camera to be able to follow my lead and to be able to work fast. And it didn't pass the test. But this time it was amazing with this Sony A9. I'm not making advertising. It just happened.
Hashtag not sponsors.
Especially on a film set where that thing is so silent, you actually question if you actually shot the picture or not, and you have to look like, did I actually shoot it? Because it makes no sound whatsoever. And the A9 for me, it focused so fast. Sony took me out one day with when they did the firmware upgrade for the A9, and I went out to a rugby game. They sent me to a rugby game, and I tried the new 400 2.8 lens on it, and literally I would hear something off to the side, and I'd just spin around and shoot it. And this is a fast-acting rugby game, and I would get the shot. It focused so fast, even before my mind could wrap around what was going on. It was that fast, and so it's almost I think it's a pretty perfect camera, especially for film sets and stuff like that. Being that silent and that fast is unbelievable.
And it's great because at first the first day I was trying, I thought I didn't do it right because it was so silent that I was like, I'm not doing anything. Why is not doing anything? And then I checked, and I had already like 7 pictures, the same 7 pictures, which was insane. I was like, okay, whoa, this is a monster. And then the video clip during the pandemic, I shot it, I filmed it with that. Because I already had the camera and I didn't give it back yet because of the pandemic, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm gonna keep it a little longer so I can use it for my project, and it was amazing too. So I couldn't keep it though; I had to give it back. But now I'm secretly in love with it, and I'm trying them to give it to me or something. I don't know how.
It's funny.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but
it's funny you mentioned the silent shooting, because I think more and more people are understanding that. We've talked about it before, like last week, we talked about silent shooting on the Hill, in that you're shooting political stuff, and it's kind of like it's required nowadays on certain events that you're shooting. They don't want the shutter sound. And I was actually shooting an event today, and I got a complaint about my shutter sound at a shoot. And they were like, hey, do you have one of those silent cameras? Can you shoot with that? I'm like, yeah, actually, I do have one of those. I was using my old camera, and I was just because out of convenience, it was available. But I can shoot mirrorless, sure, yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting. It's pervasive, and it's kind of getting into the general population. Not just us camera nerds who know about it. Evelyn, I know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. 5, yeah. I fell in love, Maysun, with the A9. Sony let me demo some A9s too, and I had never used the A9 too, and I was like, wow, this is a game changer. But then I knew that this Canon I shoot Canon, and the Canon was coming out, so I haven't switched. And now Dave has one in his hot little hand, so I'm dying to know how it was, even though you haven't shot with the Sony. Like,
I mean, I can answer. I have shot with the Sony A7S2.
Very different camera.
I know. Again, I don't have tons of experience, but from what I can tell you of the shooting with R5, it was a beautiful, magical experience. The files are just gorgeous. I love the high resolution and capability with the 45 megapixels you get out of it. The autofocus is just magical. The color science is beautiful. Everything everybody else has been saying about how great the camera is for stills, it is. It's just a really awesome camera. I don't think you can go wrong if you want to use it for news journalism or sports. I
will say the one thing is that the A9 will be better in low light than the A5 than the Canon, and that's because of the megapixel, and it's hands down. It's hands down because of the sensor. You have a 45 megapixel sensor, and the A9 has a sweet spot at a 24, which makes it better in low light, and it's also very fast focusing in low light. And it's just they're going to give that little edge in low light that the Canon is going to be beautiful, and the resolution, if you're shooting for resolution and something like that, there's nothing bad about the Canon, but you will have an edge on the low light with the A9, especially the A9 too.
Convinced me already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
both cameras are great. There are pros and cons to any camera that you have. And if you're trying to shoot 8K or you're trying to a more res file, then you go with the Canon. But if you're trying to have that edge in low light or have a fast camera that's just going to be, then it's the A9 II. I mean, it's not one's better than the other. It's just one does something better than the other one does.
Right. And if megapixels aren't as important and lower light is more important to you, there's also the Canon R6, which gives you a 24 megapixel sensor.
Dave, that's not going to be even in the same realm as an A9 II. So come on,
really?
don't. Yeah,
really?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's not even without a doubt, the A9 II blows away the Canon R6. I mean, that's not even a debate.
In what category? In what category exactly?
In every single category.
Okay, what's the price difference between the cameras?
Yeah, of course, because one is a better camera, Dave.
Okay, well, again, I mean, that's another factor you have to take into consideration what your price is.
This isn't a Canon Sony thing. I said that the R5 is a fabulous camera, and it depends on the tools. So I'm not debating one camera is better than the other. I'm saying there are certain benefits to one camera to another camera. That's all I was to say.
Right, but you're pointing to lower light capability because it's a lower resolution sensor, right? That's one of the reasons. I agree. I mean, that's why the Sony A7S III is a low light beast. I mean, if you want low light, honestly, get the A7S III. If you don't care about resolution, that's the camera to get right there, more than any other camera, right? I mean, I think you'd agree that that's a better camera than the A9 II for low light capture, right?
Not for journalism, not for stills.
Because of the amount of stills that the A9 II can capture?
No, they're inherently different cameras. The A7S is a camera that is built basically for video. It does stills very well, but it's video-centric camera at 12 megapixels. It has larger pixels on its sensor, so it absorbs light better, and which makes it a very good video camera and a stellar one that is unmatched by many others. Where the A9 II is geared on its sensor, the way it's stacked, on the way the sensor's built, the way it's the focusing in, the way the speed of it, the eye autofocus, everything about that camera, but from its Ethernet ports to its connections to everything, it makes it a journalistic camera, which is no other camera really has a lot of those functions except some of the Canon, the X, the Ds, and stuff like that, and the Nikon. They're huge beasts of a camera. The A9 II is built like one of those cameras. Right.
So the A9 II would be more on that class. The 1DX, the Nikon D5,
Absolutely.
D6. That's where that camera is more.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, if that's your market, if that's your target, then yeah, absolutely. Then there's no reason to compare it to the R6.
Journalisms that are looking for the very best in their equipment. So that's why I'm catering my answers to these two.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think you can get a lot out of a 1DX.
This is we've ever gotten on a camera debate.
What's that?
This is the most heat we've ever gotten on a camera debate, and I'm not even saying don't get Canon or don't get Sony. I'm just saying one is one and one is the other.
Yeah, but again, I think if you compare this apples to apples with the R5, I think this stacks up very well against the R5 with regard to certain aspects.
There's so many great cameras out there. The X4 Fuji is an amazing camera. It depends on the tool. It's like the Fujis are made like I think you can set every little button before you turn on that camera. It's the most old school digital new school camera you could possibly have. So it's your style, what you're looking for, the way you shoot, what's important to you in a camera. All of these are different things. So when someone says, "Well, what's the best camera out there?" There is no best camera out there. It's what you shoot and how you shoot. And if someone doesn't ask you what are you shooting and what's what's important to you and what ecosystem you want, because there's a huge ecosystem that you're buying into as well. I'll tell you right now, I am a Canon Pro Service and I'm Sony Pro Service. Canon Pro Service, I can't walk into a place anymore. In Sony, I can walk into a place and and I can walk into New York, I can walk into LA and get my camera serviced and clean right there. I know the people, they take care of me. There is an ecosystem between Sony that I have not found in Canon, and I've been a Canon shooter much longer than I've been a Sony shooter. So there's all these factors between and lens choices. If so Fuji makes some incredible lenses and compact, and if you want a compact system, I think Fuji is an amazing compact system. And you look, you've used the Panasonic, which is a beautiful video system and an incredible video system. But it really, there's when you're playing with hairs of what's going to make you that little edge. And sometimes when you're a professional, journalist or a photographer, you need that little edge. And I know the A9 for me is performed in a way that I've never seen another camera perform. And I own a Fuji medium format. I own a Canon 5D Mark IV. I own the Canon EOS are. I mean, it's not like I don't play with every system out there. And I just know that little edge, if I'm going to grab one camera that I need to rely on my career with, it's going to be the Sony.
Wow.
Wow. Well said. Very impassioned argument for Sony there, folks. There you go. You won me over. Anybody want this R5? I'm just going to throw it away in the trash. I don't even want this thing.
I'll take it.
Throw it away.
I
mean, if you don't want it.
This piece of garbage? I mean, please. But no.
Like I said, there is no piece of garbage. There is no piece of garbage. Every camera company out there is making great equipment, and it's actually insane. And that's why you're getting such heated debates, because there are so many gosh darn good cameras out there right now. There's so many great choices. You really can't make some bad choices. So it really is so important that you fine tune what you're looking for and play with them. There's so many places you can rent cameras from. Lensrentals.com. If you're tossed up between an A9 and a Canon, rent them both. Save yourself some time or money and go out. And a lot of places like Sony, up until recently with COVID and stuff like that, you could walk in and actually, Sony had a place in New York City. You could walk in and take a camera out for an hour or two and just play with it. But unfortunately now those are, right, with COVID, those can't do that kind of stuff.
If you don't mind getting a pandemic, disease, then go for it, the bottom line, I'll tell you for Evelyn, and we can talk more about it offline, Evelyn, if you have, specific questions. But, the bottom line I'll tell you about the R5 from my perspective is, as a Canon shooter, if you want the most seamless transition from a mirrored system to a mirrorless system, I think the R5 offers that for you. You're not a 1DX user. You're not in need of the Ethernet port and certain other features that come from the extremely high-end, Canon cameras. For the
You're right, so you can save the money just by the A9 instead of the A9 II.
Anyways, as I was saying, if you want the seamless transition, I think the R5 offers that. The R6 is also a good alternative for still shooters if that's what you want. I wouldn't recommend it for video shooters. And I really wouldn't recommend the R5 for video shooters who need constant ability to shoot video. I've been shooting a lot of 8K with it, and it's been fine. It's held up fine. But if you're going to shoot 8K, you need a solid state workflow system. You need solid state hard drives. You need the whole system needs to be solid state from beginning to end. Otherwise, you're going to tear your hair out trying to edit any of the, at least video. The photos are fine. The photos are like 45, 50 megabyte files. So just make sure you've got the hard drive space for that. But again, I think for you, the R5 offers the most seamless transition. The one thing I will say from coming from Panasonic back to Canon, or at least, again, I don't know if other Canons do this, but at least with the R5 or the R system, it's like having to switch from photo to video is like a 2-button press action, which really irritates me with the Panasonic. If I just want to shoot video, I just press a video button. If I want to shoot photos, I press the photo button. It's like little thing, but again, it takes a little getting used to. Like Travis says, try them all out, see what works for you. But again, that's my take.
Yeah, that's a good take. I mean, I think the only issues for me is low light and focusing speed would be the deciding factor.
Yeah.
And I like how the Sony focused. I didn't love the menu system. I wouldn't get the A9, Travis. I like the A9 II so much better.
I agree with you. I said if you want to save some money.
But so for me, it would be about, of course, I love that articulating screen. And I guess the R5 has that. So then, for me, it would be how quick the focus is and how good it looks in low light. So if you can give me the answer to that, David J. Murphy, then I may be able to decide once and for all.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do some low light testing, but I will say a couple things. Vari-angle display. That's what I love about it. Be able to pull that out, turn it all up and down. Love that with the Canon. You can't get that on the A9 too. That at least I can tell here from these pictures. And then with regard to low light, you are getting the dual image stabilization in both the lens and the camera body, which from people who've used both systems have said it's a little bit better on the Canon. Also, there was one other aspect they said was a little bit, the autofocus speed. Again, I can't tell you from personally, but from what I've seen of people who've tested the two systems, they say it's a little bit faster on the Canon. But again, I don't think it's going to be, magnificently faster. I think it's just from there being able to compare them side by side, they felt the Canon was faster. But that could also be it's a newer camera, or at least, compared to the cameras they were shooting, which may have been the A7 III and the A7R4, it was faster. So who knows, the next Sony camera could be even faster than Canon or the same speed. So,
Right. Gotcha. All right. Well, this was a very exciting equipment debate today. Because, I'm like you, Maysun. I mean, I always feel like it falls into like gender roles, but 90% of the guests we've had on, and including myself, we don't get that jazzed about equipment. And Travis and Dave always are psyched up about the equipment.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but yeah.
We love our toys.
I guess.
This actually helped me a lot because I have to change my gear, and I'm trying to, I'm procrastinating. I've been procrastinating for the last month, for the last 6 months, because I was so in love with the A9, but I'm used to work with my Canon.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm still, or I was before this conversation, I was still afraid of, making the change and be wrong about it. I was like, I don't know if it's going to be a mistake or not.
Yeah.
But after this conversation, I think maybe I'm going to jump to it.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say to, you two and also anyone who's listening is know that both Travis and I have not experienced or whatever. Canon. Travis doesn't have a Canon R5, right? So he can't talk. Maybe he's tried one. I don't know. But to that regard, we're both in terms of talking from what we know, right? So I don't have a Sony A9 II, but Canon. Travis doesn't have a Canon R5. So again, we both have our own experiences in terms of what we think is best. But ultimately, you have to make your own decision, and it comes from trying everything out, if you can.
Yeah, it can sound silly, but for me, one thing that is really important to take under consideration is the weight. Right. I'm not a very strong person. I'm skinny, and I'm actually so tired of, because I work with my gear all the time. I run with it. So I'm really tired of heavy cameras. I want one that allows me to move. Yeah, kind of like that. What is it? That's
Panasonic Gh5 Micro Four Thirds. If weight is the issue, that's the way to go right there. The Micro Four Thirds
really looks
system.
Big, actually.
It's actually, what's funny is the body is bigger than their latest full frame body, the S5. The Gh5 is bigger than that. But again, the system as a whole, which encompasses the lenses and the bodies, are smaller, much smaller and lighter weight than your full frames.
Okay.
From my perspective.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna stick to the Sony A9.
Okay.
I've been so happy this last month with it, and it's actually a little bit lighter than the Canon, which is actually easier.
Nice.
It's super easy. Yeah.
Cool. Well, come back on and tell us how your switching process went.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, I think that's going to end this week's show. Maysun, please tell us where people can find out more about you and your work.
Okay, so I have, I don't know why some application opened automatically. You can find my work on my website is www.maysun.eu from Europe. And also in Instagram, it's a Maysun photo. And, in the newspapers and magazines, I don't know, just look for my name. Yeah. And that's it. Oh, if you like and you have time, if you want to check a documentary in which I appear or start, I don't know how to say that. In Netflix, there's one that is called A Dying to Tell, and it's about a documentary. Well, it's a documentary about war reporters, and it's nice. So if you want to check it, it's Dying to Tell on Netflix.
It's going on my playlist right now.
That's right.
Oh, cool.
Right after Tiger King.
I've already watched that.
Yeah. Now there's a great documentary for you right there. Real high quality journalism.
Definitely entertaining.
Yeah, nothing unscrupulous at all. Evelyn, you got anything for us? Anything you want to throw out before we sign off?
No, I'm good. Everything's cool here. Just busy in my personal life these next couple weeks. So,
and things are only going to get more busy professionally in the next few months. I think something's happening in November. I'm not really sure, but might change.
September.
Yeah.
Oh, November. The election. You know, this election year, normally I would be busy. Right, I know. I forgot because there's no campaigning. Like normally you'd be on the campaign trail, but because of COVID, so it's like this has been totally topsy-turvy. No conventions, no nothing. So it is like you forget all the, as a photographer, I'm not doing very little. Yeah. So, but I will cover election day for sure.
Indeed. All right. Well, stay safe out there. And the inauguration.
Yeah.
That should be fun, however it goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, next week, I'll see your lovely faces again.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Travis, you got anything for us before we sign off?
Yeah, I'm starting a new blog where I'm going to be switching over, selling my Sony equipment and switching over to the new R5. And I want everybody to enjoy that. No.
How about you take my R5, I'll take all your Sony equipment. We'll call it a deal.
Done. Wait, I might not get mine back, though.
Ha 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 ha. LOL. Anyways, if you like what you saw here, you want to talk to us after the fact, go to our website, aroundthelens.com. You can find links to all of our social media. We're on the Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. So go on there, like, comment, subscribe, follow, ring the bell, heart, share. I think I've covered everything. And if you really want to be a super fan and support us financially, go to patreon.com/aroundthelens and throw us $1 or more. Preferably more, but $1, we'll take $1. We're like
start anywhere.
Yeah, we're like the guy on the side of the corner holding the can or whatever, asking for change. We're like that. Visual journalism news for change, that's. Anyways, okay. Anyways, that's been a great show. Thank you all so much for your time. Maysun, thank you so much for taking time out. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, you're always welcome back.
It's been a pleasure.
Great.
Thank you.
Loved having you.
I will.
Definitely. All right. Well, for Evelyn Hochstein and Travis Keys, I am David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, episode 242, and we are out of here.
Thanks for listening to Around the Lens. We hope you enjoyed the show. To continue the conversation, head on over to one of our social media outlets such as Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter. To support the show financially, consider donating to us via Patreon. For show notes from this week's episode and links to everything else we talked about, just go to our website, aroundthelens.com. Finally, if you or someone you know might be a good guest for the show, get in touch with us via email at info@aroundthelens.com.